Is this guy's name's really deadass Kingfisher?
I think DM is an insufferable and annoying FMC.
Like, I do love a good underdog, I fear. I do love a good underdog. Guys, hello. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys have been well. Today we're doing something a little bit familiar. We're actually going to be doing Flick or Flip episode 2, okay? So if you guys don't know what Flick or Flip is, it's basically where I read these fantasy, actually it doesn't really matter the genre. It can be fantasy, it can be romance, it can be sci-fi, but essentially I read a book that has a series that's ongoing or finished, and I decide if I want to flick the book, which means not continue with the series, or flip the book, which means to continue on with the next book in the series. So I have 3 books this episode, and these are actually very highly anticipated reads for me. So without further ado, these are the books that I have in store. So going from top to bottom, we have Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. This has been recommended to me a lot, and I don't know anything about this at all, so I'll be going into this blind. We have a brooding and troubled anti-hero, a heroine with a strong backbone, struggling between duty to family, love, and all mortal kind. This is a slow burn romantasy. You guys know I do love a good slow burn. Maybe that's why I put this on my TBR, because I've been looking for a slow burn fantasy that like spans multiple books. Like I'm telling they don't get together until like the 3rd book, but I don't know if this will immediately follow this, but who's to know? All right, so very excited to start with this one. So this is our first pick. Second, we have Quicksilver. Now this is not something that I was dying to pick up, but I did hear a lot of things about it. This is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. We have a male on the covers, which is very different. We usually have women, and usually the main character is women. I've heard mixed opinions on this book, but it's nice and a lengthy book. You guys know I love lengthy books, and I love lengthy fantasies. This is actually 600 pages. Ooh, okay, I do love long books. So this is, you know what, I'm going to add something new. You know what, let's start. Let's think what I'm going to project my rating for these books. I'm going to project my ratings for these books. So for Spark of the Everflame, I'm going to project a 4 to 4.25, and I think that I'm going to flip. I'm going to keep reading this series, because I actually do have the 3rd book in my person, but I don't have the 2nd book, because I thought that the 3rd book was the 1st book. So after I found out that I bought the 3rd book, I was like, damn it, now I have to go and find the actual 1st book. And this is when I was doing the bookstore crawl. My city was hosting a bookstore crawl, so I had to go to a different bookstore to find the 1st book. Now, Quicksilver. I am going to project a 3.75 to 4 stars on this one, and I do think that I will be also flipping on this series. And then last but not least, this is my my highest anticipated read for this episode. We have the Mistborn Saga by Brandon Sanderson, guys. This is a reprint. This is actually a new cover. Like, I know, because Brandon Sanderson, he is a well-known author, and he's one of the older authors, so his books, they've been out for a long time, but this is a reprint, so it has a new cover and everything, which I thought was very pretty. So I was searching online, going on Reddit, going on Google, everywhere I could find, what is the best reading order to start if you want to get into Brandon Sanderson? And they were saying, everybody, you need to start with Mistborn. So I was like, say less. I went to my local Barnes & Noble, found the book, and here we are. So I'm projecting a high rating for this one. I want to say 4.5 to a 5 star. I want this to be a 5 star. You know, I'm trying to fill the gap that Red Rising left. I just finished that saga 2 or 3 days ago, so I'm very excited to read this. So this is the last book for this episode. We're actually going to do a little spin the wheel to see which one we start first. Obviously, I really want to start the Mistborn first, but whatever this wheel chooses, it's fine. Okay, it shows Spark of the Everflame. I'm not mad at that. That was probably like the 2nd one I wanted to read next, but okay, we're going to start with Spark of the Everflame, and it's going to be really exciting, and I will get back to you guys. We'll start right now, actually. Ooh, look at the sprayed edges. I love these sprayed edges. Hello guys, it is a brand new spanking day and I'm back to tell you what I've read so far in Spark of the Everflame. I do want to say, actually I don't think my projection has changed. I'm liking the story thus far. It's not like blowing my mind, but I want it to blow my mind, so I'm gonna keep reading. But off camera I made it to page 124, so I'm 6 pages short of the 1/3 mark, but I was like, let's go ahead and just talk about it right now so I can just get back to reading. So far, I'm liking the main character, DM, I don't know how to pronounce her name. So we learned a lot about DM. She's different from the rest of the mortals in this. Actually, let me just talk about this world as in general. So this is a fantastical world where this split into like 9 regions because there is a story of how there was 9 immortal siblings who fell in love with mortal people and they did not want to see their loved ones shrivel up and die of old age. So they decided to give up their immortality and they were able to live happy lives with their loved ones and have children. And these children are called the descendant because they have half mortal blood and half the blood of the immortal 9. Well, now immortal, the kindred. So they have half kindred blood and half mortal blood. And so the descended are revered in a bad way for mortals. They're not really, nobody really likes them. It's like you guys stay over here, we stay over here, right? It's pretty segregated and there's not really high mortal favor for the descended. But either way, we are introduced to our main character, DM. She's a 20-year-old woman and she actually has white hair and gray eyes, which is very unusual for mortals because all mortals in this universe have brown eyes and brown hair. There's not a lot of distinction. Like, we don't even have blonde people. Blonde people, those are probably going to be reserved for the descended, right? Apparently, DM used to have brown hair and brown eyes, but she had a childhood sickness that she got over when she was about 10 that changed her hair and changed her eye color. And ever since then, her mother has had her taking this flame powder that is supposed to suppress the illness. The mother's name is Aurelie, and Aurelie ends up going missing, and it's been 6 months since then. And DM has stopped taking her flame powder, and ever since she stopped taking her flame powder, she's had this urge and this anger inside her that we don't know where it's coming from. And I'm starting to think that she is actually a descendant because the father that's raised her is actually not her real father. Apparently, her actual biological father is a descendant. So there might be something interlinked there, but that is kept under wraps. Like, that is basically a secret. Basically, this flame powder, since she threw it away and now she's scared of the repercussions from not taking the flame powder for the last couple of months, she goes to this old woman to see if she has any, and she recognizes the flame powder on the old woman's shelves, and she's like, can I have some of that? And she's like, why do you know about this? You know, this is contraband. Like, if somebody finds out that you are taking this or that you have it in your possession, you can be called for execution. And DM is like, really? I've been taking this for like the majority of my life. So now I'm questioning my mother. Is my mother really dead? What has she been doing? What has she not been telling the family, you know? And this leads her to, I'm assuming who's the MMC, Prince Luther. This leads her to be in cahoots with Prince Luther because the last time she saw her mother was when her mother was talking to Prince Luther, and it looked like a pretty heated discussion. So that's just about where I am right now. We're also finding out a lot about how the mortals are trying to wage war against the descended, because we see this with DM's boyfriend Henry, who's actually in this little gang of sorts, and they all have these tattoos somewhere on their body, and they were talking about war, and DM happened to overhear it. So now we're just trying to figure out what that little conversation that they were having was what were they talking about essentially. So yeah, that's just kind of where I left off in the book. So I'm just going to keep reading. I don't know if I'll get to 2/3 today, but we might be able to get to 1/2 if I really lock in. This book is 390 pages, so 1/2 of that, 150, so 175 is the halfway point, which isn't 50. Okay, I can do that. So without further ado, let us read, my favorite part. You know, one of my like least favorite things that writers do when it comes to like fantasy is that they have like a partner already set up for the main character in the beginning of the book, and then they just tear it apart just to make way for the actual MMC. And I just don't like it, because it's like, why even write in the character to begin with? If the character is, the only character's purpose is to serve as a stepping stone to the next best thing, like why even write up the character? Like, I just feel like it's a major disservice, even if they're not even real. I don't even know why I sympathize with them so much, but it just makes me so angry and so upset, because it's just like, don't write them in at all. Don't write them in at all. Figure out a way to introduce your actual MMC in a way that doesn't have to tear down another character just for your benefit. Because I swear, I promise you, if this Prince Luther guy, when he steps into her life full time, and Henry's just cast to the side like he was a side character that never even mattered, I'm gonna be pissed off. I'm gonna just say that. That is one of my greatest pet peeves in fantasy books. This was one of my greatest pet peeves in ACOTAR. And then Tamlin turned out to be actually like really sick in the head. But like, you just destroy the characters and make room for another character, and it's like, you didn't have to do that. You could have ended things amicably, and I know this is not gonna end amicably, so I don't know why I'm so worked up, but that just really just pisses me off. Like, I can't stand it, and I wish people would go about it differently. But who am I, you know? I'm just a reader. I don't write things myself, but I mean, I wish we could just go without it, you know what I mean? But yeah, what am I on right now? Chapter 13. Like, Henry just tried to propose to her, and she just ran away from it. Likely, I mean, it's not the right time to propose, but it's just like, it's so annoying and it's so overused, and personally, I'm tired of it. Guys, is this a crazy position to read in? Just let me know. Bro, who am I kidding, bro? You can only do so much in this chair.
It's actually been like probably near a week since I opened this book for the last time, but it's because let's just set it straight. I think DM is an insufferable and annoying FMC. I think she is so immature. She's 20 years old, and I remember when I was 20, I was not acting like this. She is so immature. She's so hard-headed and stubborn. She just, these anger issues that she has. She reminds me of Rin from the Bobby Warden. I didn't like Rin. So if they're following along the lines of the same way, then I don't think I'm gonna like DM. Like, she needs to change. She needs to mature quickly, or this might be a flick, bro. This might be a flick. But anyway, let's just recap what I've read so far. Just to catch up, I am on chapter 25, page 296. So we have about 100 pages left, less than 100 pages left. So we're gonna finish this book in this sitting, and then we're gonna move on to the next book, because oh my gosh, I'm getting pissed off. I don't even know what my projection was for this. I think it was somewhere around 4-star. We'll click back if I'm wrong, but oh my gosh. Okay, let's see what I don't know what I said last. So we know that DM's mother is gone. She disappeared. I'm thinking she's presumed dead, but she essentially had a contract with King Ulthar, which is the king of the Descended, and the king of the Descended is really sick right now, and none of the Descended's like healers are able to fix him, so they brought in Aurelie, which is DM's mother, to try and find a way to heal the king, and obviously that didn't work. And we learn from Prince Luther that DM's mom actually had a deal that it was her life over healing the king, like her duties versus her life, and obviously she must have gave up her duties and lost her life, because we haven't seen her in like the last 6-7 months. Sorry. Then we learn that the flame root powder that DM's been taking for as long as she can remember is actually suppressing this voice in her head that makes her want to fight, and this voice in her head is also some like conduit to some powers that she has, and I'm starting to think that DM is like a half-blood, like she's half human, half mortal, half descended. Anyways, she's a descendant. I think it's not been explicitly stated, but I believe she's a descendant, and she's been taking this flame root power to suppress those powers. So then we see that DM wants to have a larger part in just helping people in general, so she actually consults Henry, her boyfriend, into joining the Guardians, and these Guardians are like, they're like a rebel group against the Descended, and that's up to the point that I am at right now. So we're going to keep on reading and hopefully finish this today, because I'm done with this book. Like, I've finished like 2 books in between reading this, in between this little hiatus that I've been taking from reading this. So let's not even dilly-dally anymore. I don't even think I have my mic on this whole time that I was recording, so this is gonna sound terrible.
Okay, I guess now a question that I have is like, now that the Guardians basically saw DM run away from them to go and help the Descended, what are the repercussions going to be when she tries to shimmy her way back over there? Like, now they know where your loyalties lie. Like, you've compromised the whole. I don't know. I don't know. So Luther says that, Prince Luther, he says that Soray, the King Ulther's Gryvern, has been restless lately. Well, mostly ever since King Ulther got sick, and Luther shared that once the king passes, Soray will choose a new master, and I'm predicting that new master will be Diem, because ever since we met Soray the Gryvern, Diem and Soray have kind of had this weird connection, like they see each other kind of. So that's what I'm predicting. I wouldn't be very surprised if it did happen. So bruh, that was obvious as hell. Okay, now we're at the epilogue. Bruh. Okay. And that's the end of the book. I think I'm going to give this book a 3.75. So my projection wasn't far off, but it wasn't correct. This book, definitely a classical romantasy. Like, I can see why people like this, but it's also just, it was very predictable, and I like when books aren't predictable. Like, I like having shock factor, but the shock factor is like way out of left field. And there's also a lot of popular tropes used in this book that, you know, I'm starting to get tired of, specifically when it comes to fantasy and romantasy, but, you know, that's what sells. Let's roll the dice on what we're going to read next, which I hope is Mistborn, but if it has to be Quicksilver, then I also understand that. So let's roll. Quicksilver. Quicksilver, 1 out. Okay, fine, sure. We're going to read Quicksilver next. Here's Quicksilver. Let's start a new tab on my journal. Now, what is Quicksilver even about? So we have our main character, Ceres Fane, who possesses strange powers, and she's been stealing from the Undying Queen's reservoir. She comes face to face with death, which opens a gateway between realms, and is transported to a land of ice and snow. But when she is transported to this land of ice and snow, she lands right in the middle of a centuries-long conflict that might just get her killed. Is this guy's name's really dead-ass Kingfisher? Oh, we got a nice little map. You know I love me a good map. Let's start reading. Ooh, let's change the ambiance for this one. Let's find some new ambiance to listen to. Okay, first 10 pages done. I'm gonna give this a thumbs up. I like this so far. Maybe that's just because it's just a fresh new book, but I like this so far.
Okay guys, it's been a few days. Literally halfway through my work week, I decided that I'm going to DNF this book. It is 1-star territory. Honestly, this book is so infuriating and it's so bad. It had so much promise in the first 150 pages. I made it to page 348 before I decided that I'm not going to continue with this. Honestly, everybody's infuriating except for Carry On Swift. If I were to ever come back to this book in the future, the only redeemable part of this book is honestly Carry On Swift and Ren. Those two characters are the only people who have sense in this godforsaken world. This is so porn without plot. Like, this is literally fairy porn. If you guys want to call ACOTAR fairy porn, please indulge in this before you even think about calling ACOTAR fairy porn, because whatever things you guys are saying about ACOTAR, that is not needed and it's uncalled for. This is what you should be calling fairy porn. This is genuinely so terrible. I had to write something on Goodreads. I said it's like Callie Hart took tags from Archive of Our Own, specifically the porn without plot tag, threw it all into ChatGPT and asked the AI to make a compelling story. Holy crap, this story is terrible. I don't know how you managed to crash and burn before you even hit the climax of the story. And I do want to give props to the beginning because there was a good setup. We even had some pronunciation in the first few pages. They gave you some pronunciation for the names of the places and the names of the people in the story. And I thought, okay, this is going to be really good. And then it just kept going downhill. Like, this was definitely written by a millennial who is well aware that she is actually a millennial who probably has no self-awareness that she's a millennial. Those type of millennials, guys. The millennials who purposefully bash on Gen Z because they're aware that their time in the spotlight is far, 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 far over, okay? And that's what I have to say about this. So honestly, I should have looked on TikTok more about this, because if you look on TikTok, everybody just says that it's full of smut. And if that's what you really like, please come and buy this book. Come and get it from the library, come and get it from your bookstore, pick it up and read it. But if you're somebody who hates smut, which I've said for every gosh darn video that I posted on my channel, just don't even try and pick this up. I should have known from the cover, but somebody said the cover is misleading. These people, somebody said, listen, I'm gonna listen to myself from now on, okay? TikTok is not gonna sway me, Twitter's not gonna sway me, Instagram is definitely not gonna sway me. Oh my God, I'm so pissed off. This is the worst book I've ever had the displeasure to open it in my whole 2026, okay? Thank you, goodbye. I'm going on to read Mistborn. Let's read some real fiction, goodbye. Hello guys, I am back. Off camera, I actually did start Mistborn, Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. I am coming to you today to continue reading it because I saw on TikTok that Mistborn actually has a very engaged presence on TikTok. There's a lot of fan art pages and lots of pages just in general dedicated to Brandon Sanderson's universe, and I was so inspired. I was like, let me just keep on reading. And I'm actually like 2 pages shy of the 1/3 mark, so this is going to be an update as well as a first thoughts kind of update as well. I am very intrigued. I love how this world is set up, and I love the magic system. Brandon Sanderson is known to have very articulate and very thorough magic systems, and I'm glad that he has kind of like a guide at the back of the book that tells you how the powers work, and kind of has like a dictionary for all the terms and stuff. But this was very helpful. I just figured out that this existed like yesterday, so I've just been kind of like referencing it every now and then once I'm reading about the metal abilities, the allomantic abilities as they're called. But as usual, I have been writing about what I've been reading so that I can tell you guys what I'm seeing so far. Love Vin, love her as a main character. I love Kelsier too. He kind of reminds me of like Kakashi from Naruto or Gojo from JJK. But we have our main character, her name is Vin. Her role at the beginning was an underling for an underground organized crime group. We learned that she can alter people's intentions by using her gift Luck. She calls it Luck, but that's not actually what it's called. It is a different allomantic ability, and I'm pretty sure the allomantic ability is emotion. So she was soothing people's emotions, so she was using the brass metal there. And we learned some terms. So essentially a person who is able to manipulate one metal is called a misting. So we thought that Vin was a misting because so far we've only seen her manipulate people's emotions, but she's able to manipulate more than one, so she's actually a mistborn. And we learned this because Kelsier has kind of taken up that role. He's also mistborn. He's kind of taken up that role of being her teacher, essentially, and how to use allomancy. We get introduced to Kelsier. He's kind of like a rebellious person. He actually wants to steal the Lord Ruler's fortune. The Lord Ruler is essentially this god in this universe. Essentially, he's immortal. He's lived for thousands of years. And essentially what Kelsier wants to do is he wants to overthrow the social hierarchy. He wants to steal the Lord Ruler's fortune and overthrow his empire, which essentially is supporting the Ska rebellion. I did talk about social hierarchies. The Ska are obviously at the bottom of the pillar and the nobility at the top, etc., etc. Now back to Kelsier. They call him the survivor of Halfsin. He was sent to the pits for, I don't know, no, he was caught stealing from nobility and he was sent to the pits of Halfsin. This is a place where people who use their allomantic abilities for wrongdoing or just doing heinous crimes are sent, and they don't survive this. But Kelsier survived this. He actually had a snap. They capitalized the S in snap, and I'm guessing that means to awaken allomantic powers, but that's essentially where he starts to realize that he can manipulate the metals. And we learned that he's a mistborn, and oh yes, I did write it. He was being caught robbing from the great houses, which the great houses are the nobility. So he was sent to the pits of Halfsin, and now he's out and he's helping the Ska to try and overthrow the Lord Ruler, because when he was in the pits, he was also sent down with his wife, and his wife died with her. But I'm enjoying this. I love the character. It's very funny. I love Breeze. If you know, you know. He's really nice. I like him. He's very. I like his powers. I like his character. I sometimes when I'm reading in my head, I imagine him with a British accent. So there's that. So I'm gonna keep on reading, and I will see you guys when I have another update.
Hello guys, I'm back. We're gonna talk about Mistborn. I actually finished this a couple days ago, but I've been holding off recording like my thoughts. I don't know why, but I'm gonna record it today. Mistborn. I projected this for a 4.5 to a 5-star rating for me, and I actually gave it a 4.25, so it didn't exactly meet my expectations, but I still enjoyed this book, don't get me wrong. This is actually like my first step into high fantasy. Brandon Sanderson is kind of like categorized as like the high fantasy king, and you know, this, for my first entry, this was very good. I enjoyed this a lot. I enjoyed Vin especially. I loved her. She was such a strong female character, and she was so relatable and so fun to see her like infiltrate like the noble people from coming from as like part of the thieving crew. So from this thieving crew to high nobility and wearing dresses and makeup and all this stuff and infiltrating balls and talking to other nobility. It was really fun to see. And honestly, seeing her powers develop, especially from the beginning of the book where she was so unsure and she thought she only had one of the abilities, so she thought she was a misting. She didn't even know what that term meant. To seeing her become a full blown out mistborn, stronger than even her tutors like Kelsier and all that, and Breeze and etc., etc. But following her is going to be super fun, definitely for books 2 and 3. I can't wait to see her role really just flourish. Because really, in this first book, she was an accomplice to the greater story. And now she's going to be kind of leading that story in book 2 and 3. So I'm excited to see what Brandon Sanderson does with her. I do want to say that Brandon Sanderson is also really good at writing relationships. I always say this for Pierce Brown, but it seems like Mr. Sanderson can do that quite well as well. Relationships were amazing. Vin and Kelsier especially, I loved that father-daughter relationship that they had going on. And even Kelsier, when he stated that if Mare was still alive and they were still together, that Vin would have been the perfect daughter, because Mare always wanted a daughter, and Vin just describes this exact stereotype, this exact description for the daughter that Kelsier and Mare would have had. And I thought that was just so sweet. Probably one of my favorite statements in this book. On the topic of Kelsier in general, just as such a clever, ingenious character. I love his execution towards the end. Whatever Brandon Sanderson had up in mind for Kelsier is just like chef's kiss. His plan, his little secret that he had planning out since the beginning of the book, and how it kind of all came apart, but kind of just flourished towards the end of the book, and his little sacrifice that he had to make was genuinely just so clever. I would have never saw it coming, and now that I'm thinking about it, how his ending ended up, I'm thinking about the conversations that he had with, what's his name? The monk. I'm forgetting his name. My notebook is right over there, but I don't want to walk over there and get it. but the monk, when the monk was explaining all the religions that he had in mind, because he's a keeper, he's called a keeper, so he has all this information from the old world, like before the cataclysm happened and stuff like that. And he would, every so often, he would tell Kelsier a story about a different religion, and Kelsier would say, no, this religion doesn't really fit me. And honestly, if you know, you know, I'm talking about religion and what Kelsier had to do in the end to make sure that his plan was a success. Just genius work right there. I have to give you props, Mr. Sanderson. That was amazing work. More on relationships. We have the heir of the venture house. I don't know what his name is either. I forgot his name. But him and Vin, I wasn't sold on the relationship at first, but towards the end of the book, I was like, okay, I see what they're trying to do. And especially when Vin initiated contact with the heir of the venture house. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. But that was very cute. Although I do want to say that I was on the Vin and Spooks was his name? Spooks? I was on their bandwagon. Like, I do love a good underdog. I do love a good underdog. It's the same as like when I was reading the Poppy War and Rin's first friend that she made at the academy, which I also forgot his name, but I loved him so much. And you know, after what happened to him, I had to search up if he would be in the next books, and because he wasn't, I wasn't going to continue with the books, because I'm so sorry, but I'm a sucker for the underdog characters. Like, I will always favor an underdog over an overachiever. So I was on that Vin and Spooks bandwagon, and I'm a little sad that Vin had to reject the kid, but you know, there's other things to look forward to, and I really do hope that we see Spooks in the next books, because honestly, like, MVP for me, honestly. We didn't see much of him, but he was MVP. And there were some crucial moments where he really did help with the plan, so it was able to come to fruition. But other than that, I really did enjoy this book, and I'm very excited to hop into the next one. I'm just excited in general to be in the Cosmere universe, because this is such a highly, like, talked about series, and almost everybody has read this. Honestly, all the booktubers that I interact with, all people on TikTok, it's like this is like a prerequisite if you want to be considered like a real fantasy reader. And so for me to finally be getting into it, I'm just so excited. And you know, I'm super excited also to get into his Stormlight Archive series. That is going to be that's going to be a woozy, because the longest book I've read is Alchemized by Senden Yu, which is right there. And that book is 1,024 pages, and I've never read anything bigger than that. And I know that the Stormlight Archives has some big girthy books. So, yeah. Well, yeah. This is all I had to say about the Mistborn. But thank you guys, if you've made it this far to the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Flicker Flip episode 2. I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you guys have a good day. Until next time. Bye, guys.